this horribly painful situation that did, in a way, strip my identity down for a while, turned out to be one of the biggest gifts of my life.
Okay, hi everyone. We have Michelle Lewis here with us today. And Michelle and I met last year around this time, I believe, and it was on Facebook. And I stumbled upon her Comfy on Camera challenge, where by the end of the challenge, we're all supposed to be live streaming. And that's how I got here. At that time, I was going through a super vulnerable time in my life, and I was still allowing the social anxiety to rule me in my everyday life. So that challenge was definitely a stepping stone for me to overcome that social anxiety. So if you don't know her yet, Michelle is an online visibility expert who helps female entrepreneurs get comfortable with their systems, get clear on branding, and rock their videos and live streams. She also is the host of the popular podcast Visibility Vixen. So Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here, Lisa. You were one of the first people to go through my Comfy on Camera challenge. So I have such a special place in my heart for you, and I'm totally thrilled to be here.
Yay! So one of the reasons why I think you and I clicked so well is because both of us love the process and the journey a little bit more than the destination itself. So I know you have an amazing, incredible transformation story. And right now you're aligned with your body and your life's purpose, but it wasn't always that way. No. So can you bring us back in time and share some of the struggles you had to overcome?
I think, yes, of course I can. And I think that a lot of online entrepreneurs feel kind of out of place because they think, oh, all these people just woke up one day and knew that they were going to be an online entrepreneur and got famous overnight and are making money. And that's just not me. I've had like 6 lives and I've had all of these failures. And so I could never be an online entrepreneur. And I'm like, no, you're the perfect person to be an online entrepreneur. And I say that just because we tend to be people who have been through a lot of struggle and challenge. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. It's one of the hardest things. And so my story started when I was born. I was born with complications. I was unable to breathe out. So I was born in a lot of trauma, and that led to a compromised immune system growing up, which led to chronic headaches at age 12, which led to multiple organ failure in my early 20s. So I was told that I wasn't going to live much longer, but my family was like, we're not taking that. No, we're going to figure out a way. And I was able to find someone who helped me heal from the inside out with natural medicine, which led to me getting my doctorate in that topic and also my bachelor's in TV and film. I went into the TV space. I was a stand-in for many years. I developed my own show and all this other stuff. My show was taken by another network. I was a musician for a while and my songs were like stolen. I've had like thing after thing after thing.
I didn't know.
I know. There's so many things, Lisa. Like, oh my gosh, when people are like, I had this one thing fail, I'm like, don't worry about
it. Girl,
like,
please.
You're fine. So a long story short, when I was so sick of being a stand-in and like, oh, I'm on my feet for 14 hours a day in heels to match the actress's height and not getting a ton of compensation for it, I stopped like overnight and I started developing an e-course called Life Reboot. Had no idea what I was doing, had no idea if anyone was going to go through it. It was just laid heavily on my heart to make a course to help people, get out of their different life patterns quickly. And that is how everything started snowballing. That's how I discovered this online world of entrepreneurship and like all these Facebook groups and was like, there's other people just like me.
Right? That's amazing.
And it just showed me that especially for female entrepreneurs, we all have a lot of blocks around visibility, which I did as well, being a stand-in. And so that's how everything got started and how I started my business.
I love so many points of your journey along the way because it shows so many different points and strengths of like you pushing through, and you're kind of dealing with some rejection. Yes, at some point.
Fun.
Yeah.
A lot of like crying under my covers. Don't think like, oh, you're just born with strength. No, strength is built. And, you can't become a strong person if you're not given opportunities to show strength. And it's that choice of, when my body was failing, getting up every day and taking the herbs and doing the different affirmations and meditations and healing my body day after day after day. And we tend to not see our progress because when they're incremental in days, we don't see it. So it's really important to look back and go, oh my gosh, look how much I've grown since a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Right. And I was saying this yesterday about how we see ourselves in the mirror every single day. So it's like that, very similar when you're going on like a weight loss challenge, or maybe you're trying to clear your skin. Sometimes you don't see the progress because everything looks the same every single time, until one day you're looking at a picture of yourself a few years ago. You're like, whoa, who is that person?
Yeah. You
So
have to see it like side by side to really
yeah.
help your brain understand how much you changed.
And I know a lot of people say, don't look at the past. You can't really pull anything from the past, but I have to disagree, because your story, and I've had many points in my journey along the way that the past actually helped me figure out what's going on in the present time for me to change for the future. Do you agree with that?
I think there's a huge difference between learning from your past and seeing how much you've grown versus the people that tend to be like, oh, don't look at the past, forget the past, and all that. It's because they've never dealt with the past. And there's a lot of like suppressed traumas and things that they're like, oh, just hustle, just blow through it, like whatever. And that's a recipe for disaster. I do believe that people that are stuck, are feeling like they're out of alignment, or just like it's impossible for them to find success, that it's because they are constantly recreating the past. So I think you have to have a really fine line between your past, huge wall, your present, huge wall, your future. You have to really integrate yourself in the present and start creating new thoughts to take yourself towards a different future. So I think the future is important. I do think that it can wrap, especially female entrepreneurs, up in expectation because they feel like they can never change or do enough. But I don't think you can just completely ignore your past and pretend it doesn't exist. I think that's dangerous too.
Right. Totally agree. So was there a specific stressful experience that turned out to be a defining moment in your life? And it can be personal or at work or in your business.
That's interesting. I'm probably going to tell you a story from last night. My dad was, we were down in Hollywood at the Chinese Man Theater. My dad was a part of this documentary called Legendary ADs, or Assistant Directors. We were out at dinner and we were talking about someone we'd run into earlier that day. I am a believer. And so my family used to be at a family church and I was a worship leader, but the worship pastor and the regular pastor and all of these people would always like come down on me. They'd say I was dressed inappropriately, even if I was wearing like a turtleneck. They said I wasn't talented enough at music to be a leader, all these different things. And so I had to make the decision to leave that church. And at the time, it was one of the most painful things in my life because I'd been there since I was 3 years old. So my family was asking like, oh, so you ran into so-and-so? Like, wasn't that really uncomfortable? And didn't you just want to run out of there? And I was like, as much as that was a painful experience, and sure, like seeing him made me be like, bah.
Yeah.
At the same time, if he hadn't have created that experience for me, I never would have had to step out on my own to really figure out what my personal relationship was with God. I probably would have still been there and just stayed a worship leader and never even looked into online entrepreneurship. So this horribly painful situation that did in a way strip my identity down for a while turned out to be one of the biggest gifts of my life because it made me stand firm on a solid foundation apart from everyone and everything else. So I think it's interesting after you've had some time to heal from a situation to look back and be like, holy moly, that was like one of the most defining points in my life. And then change it from hostility and anger to such a gratitude for going through that, because it's developed you into such a different person.
Yeah, I haven't heard that story before, so thank you for sharing. Do you think that when you're going through like current stressful moments, that a light bulb goes off in your head of like, I could grow from this?
I don't know. I think growth, eek. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. I've really had to train myself, and I still struggle. There are certain things that come up in my experience and I like have my immediate emotional reaction, which I think you need to have. But then
Yeah.
right, it's just innate in our being. But then you have a choice, and the choice is victor or victim. And I know this one. I know what victimization does, not only for my mentality, but my body. So I don't want to do this. This is more recreating the past. And so I have to look at it and go, okay, even if this person is being this way, or this thing happened or fell through, I have to adjust my own mindset to continue moving forward. And that's such a beautiful difference between growth and protect. And when we're protecting and trying to stay safe, things can't move on. We're recreating the past. So I try to, in stressful situations, go, okay, this is a choice, and it's my choice, not what's happening out here, but what's happening here. So how can I adjust my perspective? And all of that has to do not only emotionally, but then I know physically, when you're under stress, the body becomes acidic and it produces bacteria rapidly. That's why a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're in a launch or under a lot of stress, they immediately get sick and then they have to take like 2 weeks off, right? So you have to be in a lot of control in terms of your body and knowing if you are under stress to recognize it, to get out of expectation, to start meditating more, doing more self-care and treating your body well. So I think that's probably the accumulation of now how I handle stress versus before, which is just a colossal freak out.
So many important points there. And one of them was knowing and recognizing that you are stressed. I feel like a lot of us had a point in our life where we get headaches, or we don't feel well, we get dizzy, and we're not quite, our palms are sweaty, or we're freaking out. Like, why am I freaking out? Like, what's going on? And we don't really recognize the physical signs. And then later we feel, we get sick. We don't know, oh, I must have caught something, but we can't find the root of the problem. So like, if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, you can start to do this is identify, okay, what's going on with my hands? Do I have butterflies? Am I getting hot in my chest? Like this is where it happens. I used to get hives, and now I don't think I get hives anymore, but it's hard to tell, right? So it took me a year to really get over that, but that had affected me my entire life. But if you finally realize, okay, what's going on? And one of the things that maybe you can comment on this is like when I get butterflies or I'm nervous, that means that like something really exciting is about to happen. And I feel uncomfortable when like this means that I'm challenging myself on so many different levels, and let's see where this goes.
Well, I think the body follows the mind. And that's something that people have a really hard time grasping, if they've even ever heard that themselves. And so you have to understand, if a headache's coming on, if your stomach's hurting, if you have insomnia or whatever, it might be a physical issue, sure, but how did it get there? It doesn't just magically appear. You don't just get IBS overnight, right? The body is slowly but surely your entire life following the directives of your subconscious mind. And that is the defining point, especially for successful entrepreneurs, especially if you watch their live streams or you're watching their videos, studying their blogs, they've gotten this stuff down. They understand that the mind is the key to everything. So I think that that's number one. I think number two is to realize that those emotions, be it panic, fear, anxiety, it drives me crazy when people put "I'm so busy" on Facebook, like "I'm so busy," or they're texting you "I'm so busy." I'm like, that's an addiction. Like, you're addicted to the anxiety, the fear. Like, I know that you're physically feeling it. I'm not trying to take that away from you, not you specifically, just the audience listening. But remember that we actually have specific emotional peptides that are stimulated by the brain that go onto every cell. So if you're chronically feeling anger, stress, busyness, it's because you're addicted to it. So it's going to take time to start, like you had to, the gradual process of coming out of those feelings by redirecting your mind. And I know for me, I used to be in chronic anger, rage, depression, because I had had so long since birth being born in fear of being addicted to those emotions. Because every time your cell replicates, that daughter cell needs more of that emotion to survive. So I think it's interesting to learn the science behind it, because then suddenly the body, those sudden reactions aren't so scary, because then you go, why am I feeling this? And what am I creating here that's manifesting here? So that changed everything for me.
Yeah. And you just hit on the addicted to stress, and how a lot of people use "I'm busy," and how we do use the word stress, like we throw it around like confetti too much. And that leads me to my next question. What do you think is a common myth when it comes to stress?
That it's not a badge of honor. A lot of people on Facebook, especially in our field, tend to be like, oh yeah, I'm pounding my 6th cup of coffee a day, or oh, like the hustle and the grind, and oh, I've been working for 16 hours straight. It's like they want you to be like, yeah, good for you. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. You don't need to live in a state of stress and hustle and grind to be successful. And whatever you do now in building your business is how you are going to be later. You can talk to my friend Angie. She overnight had like a 6-figure launch, and like everything hit the fan, right? Because she wasn't taking care of herself before then. So there's not a magical transfer that happens that, oh, you made your first million and life is perfect. You have to start implementing the strategies of self-care and balance now to be able to sustain all of that. There's so many entrepreneurs who I won't name here that I have seen and personally know that work, and it's 16-hour days, and they're not sleeping, and they're not taking care of their body, and they're not hydrating, and they literally crash. If you read the book Essentialism, it's on my bookshelf somewhere, they do a case study of this guy who he was traveling all over the world. He was kind of like a project manager kind of guy. And so he didn't hydrate. He slept like 2 hours a night, and he was always traveling. And he was so sick. He went into his doctor. They did all the scans, and they said, you have to stop working for 2 years in order to build your body and your sleep debt back up. So everything he'd worked so hard for had to go. Otherwise he was going to die. So I think there's a quote that my dad says that he read somewhere that really sums it up, which is, when you get to the top of the mountain, there's nothing there. So it's so important as you're building under this stress, to just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay if it takes you an extra day to accomplish this, or you just take this day off for yourself. Don't look at stress as a good thing, because it will little by little destroy your mind and destroy your body.
Like, how long have you gone without sleep? I'm curious now.
Oh my goodness. Sleep is such a priority for me. I think the last time I didn't sleep all night was like a month ago, because I had really bad food poisoning. So I literally was up all night hurling. It wasn't a choice. But besides that, the last time was the all-nighters in college, maybe. So, 12 years ago, to date myself. So, so I really, if people are like, oh, you need to push through and not sleep, I'm like, that's not my business. I'll see you later. I think it's so important to sleep. And people have the huge misconception that if they're under stress and not sleeping, they'll be able to create. And for me, I'm like, you might be able to create something, but it's not going to be good, right?
Right.
You need rest. You need the sleep. Those are priority number one.
And of course, the things you do create, you look back at it and it's not your 100% either.
No, no. And over
Mm.
time, you'll be like, oh, that wasn't very good. And you'll end up deleting it anyway. So it's really not worth it.
I feel like we've all been there, and like I've personally been there where I think that I'm grinding and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm super motivated right now. Go to bed and then I look up and I'm like, who wrote this? Like, what is this? You know?
This
So
is a mess.
I
Oh,
know, like who thought that this was okay?
yeah.
I won't scratch that.
I've totally
Yeah,
been there.
yeah. So, knowing what you know now, what would your advice be to someone currently going through a stressful experience?
That's a good one. Number one would be physical. And that means that B complex and vitamin C are your best stress neutralizers. You really want to focus on being alkaline and focusing on lemon and real salt water just to make sure you're getting your minerals and staying alkaline so you can fight bacteria and not get sick. Number two would be mind. And that means you need to get your butt into meditations. I have two apps on my phone. One is the Joe Dispenza app, which has like a bunch of different meditations, which I do every day. And number two is called Affirmation Reminder, which I know you're familiar with, which dings all throughout the day to keep my intention strong. I think that's really important. Emotionally, you need to make sure that you're giving yourself time to release things. This is something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't know until they get started. They get like hit by these waves of grief or sadness or depression, and they think something's wrong with them. It's
Mhm.
not. It's because you're learning, you're releasing, and you're growing as a person. So there's the concept called transmutation, which is when energy becomes matter. So as you grow, those old energetic patterns have to
Mhm.
come out. So allow them to, allow the crying, allow yourself to, step back for a bit and go to your coffee shop and have it just be you. And then my fourth one would be stay spiritually connected in terms of whatever you believe. Set aside time each day for prayer, study, devotion, whatever it is, because that is so important to keep yourself in alignment. And when you do all four of those things, you stay in balance, which your liver likes, your pancreas loves, your digestion likes, and your brain likes as well. So I think that's a really great action plan to keep staying in that stress-free state, because stress should be a sign to you that something's wrong. It should not be a motivator.
Mhm. And some people are motivated by stress. What do you think about that? Those who like act well under pressure and just like they kind of almost create scenarios just so they can be under pressure. I'm at fault for that randomly.
How do I say this? Well, I practice natural medicine on the side. What I did for myself to heal, I got my doctorate in. So I see patrons here in LA on the side. And I do have, these are usually either very male dominant women, meaning people very high in expectation that feel like they always have to achieve, achieve, achieve. It's never enough. They have to do more. It's usually because they had that kind of pattern in a parent. So even though they feel like they're more motivated by stress, it's because they've become so used to that pattern, but that's especially for women, not how we can create.
Mhm.
So I would encourage those women to take a step back, try creating when you're not under stress and see what happens.
Mhm.
For men are more physical beings. They're more action takers. So I would say a man would probably react more positively to like a deadline than a woman.
Mhm.
And that's fine as long as they're not pushing themselves. You have to understand that if people are, oh, I'm motivated by this, I'm going to go, 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 that stresses the kidneys and adrenals, causes acidity and all these problems. So I think even though it might feel that stress is a motivator, I would encourage those people to just take a step back and try doing it differently. Because I know I used to be that way.
Mhm.
I'm very sharp personality driven. Like my first year of business, I was very bad. I would do 12 to 14 hours a day. But now I work in my business 2 to 4 hours a day and I get even more done. So it
Mhm.
is possible, but you do have to do the self work and then it's reflected in your business.
Mhm. That is so powerful. Yeah, I love that. And I'm definitely going to take your advice and try to create things when I'm not stressed.
Well, you are a creative person. And since you love to coin yourself the real relaxed, I think
Mm-hmm.
that you are in your most powerful space when you're in that place.
Mm-hmm.
So you create amazing
Absolutely.
things, my dear.
Yay, thank you. So to wrap up, I wanted to finish with some quick questions so we can get to
Hammer
know you
out.
better. Okay.
Quick fire.
So what is your morning routine?
Me. I am not an early riser. A lot of people are surprised and they're like, "You're not up at 7 a.m." I'm like, "Nope, I get up at 9." And I go to the coffee shop and I bring my journal, which lists my gratitudes and requests. I bring my devotional and then I bring my inspirational book. So I sit there with my large Assam iced tea at Coffee Bean, and that's what I do in the morning to kind of get myself integrated to my day. I am really bad. Like when I wake up, I feel that urgency to check my phone.
Hmm,
So I'm really trying to get that under control and start the day with a little like 5 minute meditation instead of feeling like, oh, I have to catch up. So that's something I'm working on.
awesome. And what's something you're loving right now?
Oh my goodness. Oh, in like any area?
Yeah, like podcast, or maybe it's a book or a product, maybe
Awesome.
food, restaurant, anything.
Mm. I have totally, I do eat what's called peak, which means plants that do specific functions in the body. But about a month ago, I was still feeling really off balance and sluggish and stuff. So I took out a lot of carbs. I eliminated like desserts, which was really hard for me,
Oh,
and snacks, which was even more painful. And have been really adjusting my diet. And that's been really nice because I used to feel like still digestive distress after I ate. And so I don't have that anymore. So that's been really,
good.
really, really cool. And it's been nice to watch like the swelling that was happening in my body go down. So that is something that I've really been enjoying for the past month.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh.
exciting.
And to finish up, what is your favorite question to ask someone? Because I know that you have a podcast and there must be
Mm-hmm.
something you just love asking someone.
Oh, that's hard. I got to go with my gut here. And it's a question I don't ask usually publicly, but it's to my friends, my parents, my husband, because it's a question I ask myself every day. This is more spiritually based, so you can ignore it if you want. But I ask, what are the three things God gave you today? And what are the three things the enemy tried to take away? And I find that that changes my perspective so much because it makes me look at my blessings and then look at my challenges and change the way that I act in the future. So that's probably the more intimate question that I
Mhm.
ask with like my immediate friends and family.
Oh, that's great. And you get to know someone so well by asking
Mm-hmm.
that.
It's a
And
powerful one.
yeah, and it allows them to reflect on what happened. So you're hearing something, but you're also helping them at the same time kind of reflect on what had happened that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the one question that I feel that I'll probably end up asking my kids every night, like
Mm.
when I'm putting them to bed. And I think that would have been such a cool question to receive growing up to really
Mm.
adjust your perspective, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that.
Mhm.
So, Michelle, thank you so much. And where can people find you? I know you have all these, you're all over
Oh
the
my gosh,
place.
everywhere. You can just find me at Visibility Vixen. That's the site, that's the, social media and stuff. But at the end of the day, Lacey, you're doing amazing things. I support you no matter what. And I think that this is going to be a really awesome interview series. I know you talked to Aaliyah
Yay.
last, and I love her. So you have all the connections to make this just such a powerful series to impact people.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much.
Of
Any last
course.
words of wisdom before we head out?
I don't know. Like, I think just ultimately for the people that don't have the family support, the friend support in what they're doing, when they're hearing from everyone, why are you doing this? That won't be successful. You're building an online course. Who's going to buy that? Blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. I hear from people that are totally alone in this journey and stuck in their corporate jobs. So I think, tell everyone and everything else to shut it and build what you feel led to build, because no one else is going to do it for you. And you're the only person that can change your reality. So if nothing else, step forward, put your fingers in your ears, and do what you were sent here to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate you joining us today, and I will see you soon.
Sounds good, girl.
Bye.